There's a version of low desire that not many people talk about. It's not about attraction or hormones or how long you've been with your partner even. It's the experience of living inside a body that has essentially gone quiet on you, where the signals that used to arrive clearly, hunger, excitement, and wanting, now come through muffled or not at all. And you're left wondering whether the problem is your relationship or your past or just you. But what if it's none of those things? What if your body isn't broken and it's just been doing its job so effectively that it shut down more than it needed to? That's what we're going to be talking about today. If you're new here, I'm Cyndi Darnell, sex and relationship therapist working with people in all kinds of relationship configurations, in all kinds of contexts, all over the world. And this channel is where we have the conversations that most people are having only in their heads, but not out loud. We talk about desire, intimacy, connection, and what really gets in the way of having the kind of relationships and sex lives that we want. If that's what you're here for, you're absolutely in the right place. So let's get started. The nervous system isn't subtle. When it perceives a threat, and I use that word very broadly, because threat can be a raised voice, or it can be an old memory, or a dynamic that doesn't feel safe. It does what it was built to do. It prioritizes survival. Everything else gets rationed, including pleasure, including desire. And that isn't a character flaw. And it's not proof even that something is fundamentally wrong with you, or that you're too damaged or too far gone. It is, in the most literal sense, your biology working exactly as it was designed. The difficulty is that the nervous system doesn't always know when the threat is past. Patterns that were once protective can become the wallpaper of daily life, and so familiar that even you stop noticing them. And in that chronic, low-grade vigilance, the quieter signals get drowned out. Desire, for a lot of us, is a quiet signal. It doesn't compete well with alarm. So the question isn't, how do I want more? It's how do I create enough internal safety that wanting becomes possible again? So we tend to think of desire as something that happens to us, a feeling that arrives or doesn't. But desire is actually a somatic event, something that happens inside the body, through the body, as information the body generates and tries to communicate. And for that communication to work, 3 perceptual systems need to be reasonably online. The first is interoception, your awareness of your internal landscape. Things like heartbeat, breath, the tightening of your chest before a difficult conversation, or the particular warmth of a genuine excitement. This is how you know what you're actually feeling beneath the story you're telling yourself about it. The second is exteroception, the 5 senses oriented outward, how you take in the world around you, including other people, whether you can receive a touch or a look, a presence or something pleasurable, rather than something that you have to scan for danger. And the third is proprioception, your sense of yourself in space, your weight, your boundaries, the felt experience of occupying a body that belongs to you. The ability to lean toward something or move away from it from a place of agency rather than a reflex. When any of these systems are dysregulated, either through chronic stress or through trauma, or through simply having lived in a body that has been surveilled or controlled or violated, the whole communication breaks down. So you stop receiving those messages, or you receive them in a distorted way. And desire, which depends on all 3, can sometimes go quiet. I want to tell you about a guy called Samuel. Samuel came to see me, not because he'd identified a problem with desire. He hadn't thought about it in those terms. He came to see me because he felt, in his words, like he was always slightly somewhere else. Present enough to function, but never quite fully arrived anywhere. His partner had started naming it. His friends occasionally asked if he was all right. And he said yes, because in all the ways he could measure, he was. He'd grown up in a household where big emotions were managed by being minimized. Nothing was ever overtly unsafe. There was no single defining event he could point to. Just years of learning, gradually and thoroughly, that what he felt internally wasn't particularly reliable information, that the right move was to keep things level, readable, and easy. His body had taken that lesson and applied it everywhere. In one session, almost by accident, Samuel mentioned that the only time he felt genuinely present was when he was swimming. Early mornings, alone in the local pool, something about the water, the pressure of it, and the specific sound it made, the way his body had to navigate through it actively, it pulled him back in. He'd never connected that to anything. It was just a thing that he did. But what he'd stumbled into, without a framework for it, was proprioception, his body in space meeting resistance, requiring his full attention to move through it. For those 40 minutes, the protective dissociation didn't work as well. He was too physically present for it. So we started there, not with the history, but with the patterns, with the pool, noticing what the water felt like on his hands before he pushed off from the wall, whether his breath was tight or open, whether there were moments in that lane where something other than monitoring was happening. And slowly, that window widened, not because anything dramatic shifted, but because his nervous system started to accumulate evidence that sensation wasn't something to manage. It was something to inhabit. And his desire didn't return in a rush. It crept back in, quietly, over months, first as curiosity, and then as preference, and then as want. The pool was his way back to his body. His body was his way back to everything else. Just a quick pause here. If you're finding this useful, a like really does help this content reach more of the people who need it. And if you want to go further with any of this, head on over to my website, cyndidarnell.com. There you'll find online courses that go deep into understanding your body, your desire, and your relationships. Now, I want to name something that often gets left out of conversations about embodiment and desire. Not everyone's disconnection from their body has the same origin story. For people who have lived in bodies that have been sexualized without consent, or policed, or pathologized, or exoticized, or treated as public property, the numbness isn't only a trauma response. It can also be an entirely reasonable adaptation to a world that didn't treat your body as your own. Reclaiming interoception in that context, deciding to feel what you actually feel rather than what you were conditioned to perform, is genuinely a radical act. Reclaiming proprioception, the sense that you have the right to take up space and move through the world on your own terms, is an act that carries weight far beyond just the personal. Embodiment work that doesn't hold this is incomplete, because the question isn't what happened in your individual history. It is also, what kind of world has your body been navigating all these years? Both of these things matter. Both shape what it means to come home. The path back to embodiment isn't linear and it isn't fast, but it also doesn't have to be as complicated as sometimes it sounds. The core movement is learning to pendulate, to move gently between sensation and safety, not diving into the difficult feeling and staying there, but touching it briefly and then returning to something neutral or something grounding. The body of the chair beneath you, the weight of your feet on the floor, the sound of traffic outside, and then again, the sensation. What you're teaching your nervous system, rep by rep, is that sensation is information rather than emergency, that it can rise and fall, and that you can survive both. This is also relational work. Your nervous system is wired to regulate through other people, to borrow a steadiness from a presence that feels safe, which means that a partner or a therapist or a trusted friend can be part of this process. Not by them fixing anything, but simply by being a regulated, present body in the room. That matters more than most of us realize. And within a relationship specifically, learning to read each other accurately rather than through a distorting lens of threat is where desire becomes connective rather than coercive, where wanting and being wanted can finally exist without the static. Your body isn't the obstacle. Your body is the map. The sensations you've been managing, the wanting you've been waiting for, the aliveness that feels like it's been out of reach, none of that has gone anywhere. It's been held carefully behind a door that your nervous system decided to stay closed for a while. Embodiment is learning to open it slowly with your own hands, on your own terms, not because you owe anyone your desire or your presence or your full feeling self, but because that fullness belongs to you. If this opened up something for you, please share this video with a friend, a partner, or anyone you think might need permission to come back to themselves. And please subscribe if you want to keep exploring this work. This is the territory I return to week after week. If you would like a deeper guide to understanding what's happened to your desire and how to reconnect with it, my book, Sex When You Don't Feel Like It, walks you through exactly that. The link is in the description below. And if you'd prefer a more structured, personal approach, you can work with me online. I offer counseling and coaching via video to people all over the world. Head to my website, cyndidarnell.com, for more information about all I have to offer. Thanks so much for being here. It's been wonderful taking you on this journey, and I'll see you next time.